Hi Chris, how are you?
Good evening, Rod. Yeah, I'm well. Here we are on an incredibly hot day today. I don't know what it's like with you. It's very muggy here now, but it is warm. It's like 30 degrees and it's 7 o'clock at night. It is, though, the 6th of July, 2026, and it's episode 232.
All those things are true. You've already given us a show title, though. Muggy again. I think it's been muggy with you the last 3 weeks, so muggy again is the only way we can go.
So I've been in a basement most of the day, air-conditioned. Lovely. I went out for a little walk around 3 o'clock. I had no idea how hot it was outside. I just literally had zero idea. So there you go. So it's warm, and I'd like to go outside and enjoy it, which I'm going to do after this podcast, take the dog for a walk.
So in other words, let's crack on and get this done. Follow up?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, we don't have a huge amount to talk about anyway because there's no news. I think the bulk of the show will be in the main show, and we'll see how that goes. But, we can give the listeners maybe 10 minutes of their lives back.
If this is a year to summarise thus far, halfway through, it's the year of pretty much no news. Like 2026, the year of the incremental tech.
And Ramageddon.
Oh, yeah. No, nothing new exciting. And if you want to do what you wanted to do last year, it cost you not quite twice as much.
In keeping with things that happened last year that are going on this year, we have continual lawsuits between various regulators, Google, Apple, Meta, etc., etc. And in this case, we have a report in Ars Technica that Google has lost its long-running appeal for its EU fine and will have to cough up 4.7 billion with a B. This is after the fact that it bundles its search engine and browser with Android. So you have an embedded market, as Microsoft did back in the day, as Apple do, with their operating systems as well, but there is no way out. So I got to think this opens the door a little bit. If the EU are going to absolutely enforce this fine, then they're going to do the same for Apple and Meta and all the other things that are coming after it.
Meta doesn't have its own browser, though, does it?
Yeah, but, WhatsApp messaging and all that kind of stuff within, and I know they've tried to break that apart to make messaging intraoperable. And I think they have one test case within that. But in this way, we know Google, they want you to install Chrome. It defaults to the Google browser. It defaults to you having to look at their adverts and all the rest of it. They keep cracking down on more and more things within that. This stuff isn't getting any easier for the big tech companies. It's not getting any easier for us as consumers. And I'm quite glad that some of the regulators are standing up.
I'm with you on this. It is not great how they force you down one avenue, especially if you don't know what you're doing. You just do the easy option. So, no, I do agree. So, yeah, super interesting. 4.7 billion. That's a lot of money.
I mean, it is a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money to Google, really. I mean, they print money hand over fist, don't they? And if you think this is, all right, Android phones are probably more dominant in the EU because particularly the way things have gone with Apple. And this was about EU taking issue with Google Search and Chrome being default options on Android. Well, Safari and Google are the default options on Apple devices.
Yeah, no, it's fair, isn't it? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this ends up. But, yeah, maybe there's some money coming back to consumers. Maybe they give us more choice in the future, or maybe they won't and they just carry on doing it because it's actually quite a small fine for them in the scheme of things.
It's a very small fine. And, this dates from 2018, so it's taken 8 years to get this over the line. Things haven't changed. I think Google offers a browser choice screen or a search engine choice screen now in the EU, but it certainly didn't then. And you and I have talked about this multiple times. Most consumers want Google.com. They don't even think twice about your Quants or your DuckDuckGos or your Bings or whatever other things might be out there. They're quite happy with this. So it takes a regulator to go, hang about, this isn't right. If you offer people choice, and when they offer them choice, they did choose other things, it's got to be there. And Apple are just as guilty about this.
Completely agree with you. They're all as bad as each other, and they're all doing what Microsoft did back in, the late 90s, and Microsoft won that war, and so they're probably going, well, it worked for Microsoft, we should pay the bill.
It's
just
weird,
the cost
though, isn't
of doing
it?
business.
Because on paper, Microsoft didn't win that war. They had a regulator looking at them for years, but when the threat was you need to unbundle Office from Windows, and you need to separate these things, and you can't bundle everything with Internet Explorer, which was the thing at the time, exactly the same as this, they barely got a slap on the wrist, Microsoft.
I agree. Nothing really happened, and again, this is not huge money, especially if it's taken 8 years for the fine to potentially come around. Like, we're not even talking about them paying the fine. It's not done yet.
No, but imagine you think, oh no, we're going to get fined 3.74 billion or whatever it is in 2018, and you're Google, you go, right, okay, bang it all in the S&P 500 or whatever the creative accounting thing is of that. Leave it there for until we have to pay it. It'll accrue interest. I bet that amount of money makes its own money back in this period of time.
Yeah, and in that period they've got loads of new users. Their attach rate's better. They've done more income. There's a bigger user install base. Like, they'll be fine.
I mean, I don't know if they're allowed to do that. I don't know enough about very high-level corporate accounting, particularly in the United States, but you could envisage something like that, couldn't you? All right, we've been fined. We'll put it to one side. We'll put it over there until we need to pay it. Boom.
Or a bit of foreign exchange conversion, like we sell it in one currency, buy it back in another.
Yeah, I mean, basically it's one billionth of a data center these days, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be right.
Speaking of regulators, our old friends Apple and the Competition Markets Authority. I don't know if you listened to last week's episode, Chris, but I came up with a boo for every time we say Competition and Markets Authority.
Did you? I didn't hear that. I must go back and listen.
It was there. After we said it. In fact, if you look at the title of the episode, that would be there too.
I'm a little behind on all podcasts. I think I've opened Overcast for 4 or 5 days, so I better get back on that.
Actually, while we're on this topic, I'm a bit annoyed at Overcast. It has not been updating its podcast feeds for me in any sort of timely way. For weeks now, I have to manually go in and pull it refresh to get things done, or go in and download episodes. I've find myself defaulting more and more to Apple Podcasts because it downloads things more reliably.
Oh, that's not good, is it? Maybe I've barely used it because I've been away. And I was with people, so I just haven't really been listening. So now you're making me go and open it up. So what have I got to do? Pull to refresh.
Well, they just weren't. I went to listen to Upgrade last week, wasn't there? And then I looked in the week before, wasn't there either. And I was like, and again, maybe it's a reflection of me having less time to listen to podcasts too. But still, isn't a podcast client meant to download those things for you in the background?
And it's normally been pretty robust.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. Anyway, we're going off topic here. So this is a story in the Register from the 30th of June about the UK CMA considering new requirements for steering for Apple and Google mobile platforms. So that is keeping links and things inside of their platforms and not allowing you to link out to developers' websites, payment methods, all that kind of stuff. This feels like a broken record. We've been here before.
Yeah, this isn't news, is it? This is just, it's just how they do business. Like, it's been like this for, 10 years, if not 15 years?
But this is the change in the EU. This is what the DMA enforced Apple to do, and it's what the American Justice Department is trying to get Apple to do as well, about that steering and keeping things inside of the platform. Why does it feel like the CMA is sometimes 10 years behind everybody else? Or have we talked about this before and I'm just hallucinating it?
I'm sure we've talked about it before. It just feels incredibly slow, doesn't it? And maybe we talked about it in the legal sense before, not the CMA getting involved, but I don't know. They do seem to move incredibly slowly, as you say.
I mean, it's interesting that Google has said, we've already made the changes the CMA is proposing. So, talking about Google getting on top of things, they have. But the CMA isn't saying that Apple need to stop charging developers for access to the platform, which again, I still see as very circular. Who brings the value to Apple's platforms? The developers. Yes, they build them, but if you didn't have great apps, you wouldn't go there. You and I stick to Apple platforms. A, because we're used to it, and B, those, what do John Gruber call them? Mac-assed apps? I think that's what they call them.
That's what we used to like in the old days, a proper Mac app that was really nicely Mac. And it usually was only on the Mac because it wasn't a cross-platform app. Don't get those anymore.
No, you don't get those anymore. So it's a virtuous circle, and when the platform vendor breaks it like this, it's a problem. And obviously even the CMA are seeing this. And after we get our 74 quid or whatever it is we talked about last week from being locked into iCloud, maybe we'll get another 3 quid from not being steered to the correct thing.
You're hoping for 3 quid?
Given how much money these companies make, I'll take whatever I can get from them.
Well, no, that's the thing. You see these big numbers, and then actually when they come to pay out, it's like, actually it's nothing per person because these businesses are so big. So it's a bit disappointing, isn't it, I think, for the end user.
It is. Anyway, it's just yet another story of regulators trying to do something, and I think the CMA is doesn't have a lot of teeth when it comes to this. And it's interesting towards the end of this article, they start saying how both Google and Apple have already been designated having strategic market status. So that's the same as being, a large data platform, whatever it is within the DMA, I presume. So imagine if we just stayed in the EU, we would have just been part of this anyway. We wouldn't need to pass all these blooming extra laws again. On top of it, saying that, we wouldn't have had Siri AI, which may also have been a blessing.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, isn't it? I like that they've called it strategic market status, which is SMS. Very, very clever there. like how much time and effort do you reckon they spent on designated them as SMS? Like hopefully somebody spent 5 seconds ago, well, it's Google and Android, they're the big players, done. But you've got to imagine they've spent months coming up with a paper, coming up with a decision, having somebody to sign it off. Oh, it's infuriating.
Yeah. So this is one of many things they're looking at. They're also looking at near-field communications, and they're casting their eyes on Microsoft and Amazon Web Services too, all of which is justified.
They're just following the playbook from the EU, aren't they? This is the problem now. Everybody's broken up and they're all doing the same playbook.
They are. I think that's it for follow-up.
I'm casting my mind back. The week has flown by, I must confess. But it wasn't that long ago we recorded, because we were very late recording, weren't we, last week?
We were. Let's move on to the news then. So first up, and a story that quite literally hits me in the heart. Pacemaker manufacturer Medtronic warns patients cybercriminals may have swiped their health data. So the reason I say this hits me in the heart is I'm always my eyes open to a healthcare story where data gets boosted.
Yep, and it does seem to be happening quite frequently.
I have a piece of plastic and metal in me right now, manufactured by Medtronic.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I do. Due to some health concerns a few years ago, I had a continuous sort of monitoring thing installed in me, which never found anything, but nevertheless it's here. And even though it doesn't do anything anymore, I've got this permanent bit of plastic stuck in me, it would seem. Anyway, Medtronic made the device that did the readings out of it that would sort of send your stuff back to the hospital. So my data may be in this leak.
So I could go online now and see how good or bad or mediocre your heart is.
You could have a look at how regular my heart rhythm was, yeah, for a brief period of time between 2020 and 2022, something like that.
Maybe it was just the COVID years that got to you.
It was all fine in the end, and it proved that everything I'd been telling them for years was the case. But anyway, this is a breach which has been sent to affected individuals when the company detected activity on April the 15th. So, compromised system contained the sort of data you'd expect a medical device maker to hold about its patients, including names, dates of birth, social security numbers, and health information.
Nothing major then.
Nothing very important. Everybody's very happy with having their cardiac data or whatever else, and social security numbers broadcast around the internet. I think it's largely an American hack in this case. I don't know if the NHS was affected by this. We have different systems, but I do look at this stuff and I think plus ça change, basically, because I've just butchered my French there. But this is just what you expect.
Yeah, true. That's the problem. I think we've got so used to it now that it's like water for ducks back. It's like, just another little data leak. It's no biggie.
But again, and we talk about this a lot, I think it's worth pointing out that yet another incremental leak, which adds to the vast mountain of stuff that, through no fault of our own, our data about us has been leaked, which can be joined to another data set that was in some other password leak, that was in some other bank leak, that was in some other hire car leak. And then you've got a very accurate picture of people's lives. And if you want to use that and piece it together, to carry out identity theft, just as a very basic beginning of that, you've got everything you need.
Yeah, agreed. It's bonkers, isn't it?
It really is. Something else that may be slightly bonkers is Apple's Hide My Email service, which they launched with, I think it was a WWDC they launched. If you're an iCloud Plus member, then you would get all these extra benefits, one of which was, rather than putting your proper email address into one of these services that wants a one-time sign-up, Apple would generate an email for you based on an iCloud account and, with nonsense things that you could actually get, like the verification codes and things sent to your proper email, then everything else after that could be disregarded effectively. And seemed like quite a good idea, yeah?
It was a good idea. I think I used it a couple of times. It's kind of like signing with Apple as well. You can do all of that. But I must confess, it's not that long ago, I went through and removed all of my sign-in with Apple's because I wanted to make sure I had my own usernames and my own passwords. So I did go and delete them all. It took a while. It's not easy, but you can't actually turn off hide my email, because I don't want it popping up. I just want to get rid of it. So it's not great, is it, for Apple? It's just not a good look for them at all.
No, in this case, it can be bypassed pretty easily, it would seem. So there's a vulnerability in the future that allows hackers to connect to the real email, not the one that's been provisioned by the Hide My Email service. I mean, Apple, as usual, and Gadget in this case, have reached out to them for comment, and Apple never responds to this kind of thing. But this has been outstanding for a couple of years. The people that found that vulnerability say, we don't know why this hasn't been fixed, but we don't feel comfortable waiting any longer. That's why they've announced it. Hide My Email users deserve to know that it may be possible for attackers to discover their hidden email addresses. We don't know the full scope of the issue, but in our limited test of volunteers, 100% of Hide My Email addresses were exploitable.
100%. It's a good stat.
It's a good stat. I mean, there's not a lot of room for error in 100%.
No, it's not. But Apple, what are you doing?
This is fairly basic security stuff. That if you're going to release a feature like this, you can't just let it die in the wind. You're not Google, Apple. You're meant to support these things.
Yeah, and normally they're pretty good at this thing and they make it very robust. But I wonder what went wrong here.
I don't know. Presumably, maybe it's a feature they're going to phase out or it's going to become something else. They did announce a few of these things, but clearly their hearts weren't in it. And maybe most people don't use iCloud. Maybe that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, it could be. Normally, though, they are pretty good, he's going to say, at maintaining these things. But they clearly launched this feature and, like you say, did nothing afterwards. It's been launched and that's that. We've heard nothing more about it.
Yeah. Anyway, keep an eye on it, and I think maybe don't rely on Hide My Email hiding your email if you've been a big fan of it up till now.
Yeah, well, like I said, I backed away from it a little while ago, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I think I used it once or twice, and it never performed quite the way I thought it was going to. I think I may have used it for a train line thing, and then I wasn't able to claim a refund because regenerating the email from that wasn't. And it's just a pain.
Yeah, it's a good idea in principle, but I think I ended up in the same place you. It just is a pain, and therefore it's like, actually, you're not really making my life easier, and everybody's leaked my email address anyway. So
yeah,
it's fine.
What I used to do was in my Gmail account, for example, you're able to put any full stops anywhere within sort of the first part of your email address. So if your name's Joe, if you had joeblogs@gmail.com, which somebody will have, and you put J full stop O blogs@gmail.com, you could set that up as your sort of your spam address, so you could direct everything at that while still maintaining your proper email within that, and set up a rule to redirect all the ones that are that. And that was always quite a good. So it's kind of your real email address, but the rule set that you built up around it. And I also thought it was quite a clever feature of Gmail.
Yeah, no, that's not bad, is it?
So this is a possibly controversial story that you may or may not be able to see. Chris can't see the link for this, but I can. So this is a pre-published article from from various American researchers at the National Bureau for Economic Research, based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, possibly claiming that the release of the iPhone affected birth rates in the United States. Did you get? Oh, well, you couldn't read it, could you? Do you want me to tell you about this article?
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm getting a 404, and I'm just browsing it normally on my Mac, and you can get straight through to it. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, it's all here. It's a whole pre-published research paper. So I obviously read research papers for a living, and I work in the field of, effectively epidemiology.
Can I guess where this is going?
What do you think? That I'm not going to like the paper very much?
No. I more meant, is this just going to tell us that people are on their iPhones at night rather than cuddling up with their loved ones? Everybody's just browsing the internet and looking at crap.
Effectively, but causation is not correlation.
I could be a paper writer for institutions.
What they hypothesize, if you look at figure 1 here, is that the iPhone was released in 2007.
At peak fertility rate, by the looks of it.
Right, at peak fertility rate. And after the iPhone was introduced, you see a fall in fertility rate all the way up to 2024, according to this data. And we see age-specific births do the same sort of thing. Across all ages is their point. So it's not only young people who may have bought iPhones that are affected, but you're seeing it right across the patch, from 15 and 9-year-olds up to people who are still capable of having children to 44-year-olds. You can see largely there's a dip across all of them. So
I just get in on that age band. Woo!
So the supposition is that, as you just said a minute ago, people bought iPhones, they started scrolling, they stopped dating, they downloaded porn apps instead of making dates, they watched YouTube shorts and TikToks and all the rest of it instead of making an effort. As a consequence, people are having less sex. As a consequence, there's less babies, and that's their conclusion. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it looks pretty conclusive.
Yeah, but this is a pre-release paper. Now, for those who aren't in the know, pre-release means it hasn't been peer-reviewed yet.
Okay.
So that it looks all official and nicely written and all the rest of it, as these things often do. It's a working paper, is the way they put it. But peer review means you send it to your colleagues who don't know you don't know who's reviewing it, but to go into a journal, they need to look at it. So you have 2 or 3 other experts in the field who will conclusively read it, make judgments about how good the science is, and if it's good enough, normally after a few corrections, it will get published in a journal. And once it's peer-reviewed, you can regard it as better evidence. Just publishing a preprint isn't the same thing as having an actual published paper. It's not science at this point. As I say, correlation is not causation. Yeah, there may have been some events in 2007 that may have affected the birth rate. But birth rates around the world are falling for lots of reasons. So I think it's unfair to stick it all on the door of the iPhone. There are other things are happening. You could say there was quite a lot of political change within the United States from 2007 onwards as well. So, like I say, I think it's slightly misleading. It may be a factor, but I don't think it's all of the factors. And I haven't read the paper exhaustively because I only came across it this morning. So I just thought it was an interesting sort of talking point about the impact of digital on our lives, on our real lives, not just in some sort of theoretical way.
No, I think it is. I think it is interesting, and you can probably see it, right? Like a lot of life has changed with the dawn of a slab of glass in our hands, in that people don't interact anymore. I spent a lot of time with my brother this weekend because we were watching some cars go around a track, and you could see people like on the bus or sat next to each other, not talking, but just on their phones constantly. And we found it quite baffling because whilst we did text our family and look something up, we were talking most of the time, whereas you see people literally sat a foot next to each other not engaging, and it is a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is a factor. Like I say, I don't think it's the whole story. You know, in some ways you would have hoped that iPhones would actually boost birth rates with apps like Tinder and et cetera, et cetera. You know, it opened up an avenue for some people. There's a difference between the fast hookup and the committed relationship, and I'm well aware of that. But accidental pregnancies are a thing too, you know, quick hookup or not. So it's not the whole picture. And, you know, it's not peer reviewed, so the stuff here. But again, I just think it's, as you say, that impact of technology on society, be it the printing press, the spinning cotton loom, industrialization, I mean, that had an effect on birth rates as well. All of it is impactful, but only within the context of everything else that's going on in the world.
Yep, I agreed.
Last but not least for news, unless I've missed something, the Brits and the Americans and the Europeans aren't the only ones that are unhappy with Apple. Chinese developers are unhappy as well, and they have filed an antitrust complaint over App Store fees. So nobody likes the 30%.
Quelle surprise.
I know.
Like, Apple must be really shocked by this news. They've never heard anybody complain about 30% before.
I don't. I mean, we've said it repeatedly. I could really do with it. These fungus adverts as well.
What's worse, though, is it's the advert not just once, but like multiple times.
It's repeated on the page.
So for those you can't see, we're on 9to5Mac, and literally they've obviously got some spots that they sell for adverts, and you literally get the same advert repeatedly, and it's not very pleasant.
Do you think it's because we've been talking about cardiac stuff and birth rates that our adverts are about fungal nail care and Spire healthcare?
Could well be.
They're listening, Chris. They're listening to us right now.
Well, I wasn't going to go there.
I'd like to turn my ad blocker back on, but lots of things stop working when I do, so we've just got to deal with it.
Yeah, that's
anyway,
the problem.
Chinese developers unhappy, Apple not doing anything. Quelle surprise, as you say.
Yeah, quite. I imagine that. So Apple's just going to carry on doing Apple. Unless John Tennis is going to change all of this?
I doubt it very much. I guess we'll see. They've got bigger fish to fry. You know, there's the Chinese problem. There's TSM. I wouldn't call it a problem, but there's the Chinese way of doing things. There's obviously TSMC and what's going on with the making of the chips and things there. There's the ongoing RAM shortage. There's this potential deal with Intel where they may make a proportion of Apple's chips as well as a fab rather than making their own chips, which I think is amazingly ironic. You know, Apple left Intel because they couldn't keep up with their chip production schedule and wouldn't make them the way they wanted to. Moved to TSMC, all goes great guns, and now they might come back to Intel. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's what, 6 years since they left Intel, give or take. I think they probably ceased 5 years ago. So yeah, it is interesting. But fair play, Intel, and fair play to Apple for going back to that one. Hopefully, keep Intel going.
I've got one more thought on this as well. Did we talk last week about this potential for Apple to buy Chinese memory? Yes, we did. From a Chinese memory supplier that was sort of blacklisted by the Pentagon or by the American government because they had links to the People's Liberation Army, the Chinese military. And they don't historically like buying technology from companies that are underwritten by the government in some way.
Yep.
However, Intel has a stake bought in it by the United States government. So surely, all other countries are now in the same problem.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually, isn't it? Yeah, they are not a million miles away, are they, from that other Chinese company? So yeah, okay, fair point. Well remembered.
One rule for one, another rule for another. Should we do a brief car corner?
Yeah, go on then.
I think you and I have talked repeatedly about the looming problems that Tesla has. People weren't buying the cars. Elon Musk is clearly problematic. There's lots of things going on with that company that are sort of challenging. I sold my Tesla, actually. This is a good news story for them for a change. Apparently, sales are up by 25% in quarter 2 2026. So, didn't see that coming.
I didn't see it coming, but I don't think I'm that surprised. I think Elon's been out of the news, right? So he's not been in the news. He's not associated with Donald Trump as much as what he was, because obviously he left government whenever that was. He's doing all the efficiency stuff. So actually thinking about it, time's a good healer. He's not in the public spotlight. He was recently because he's the first trillionaire, and he's the first trillionaire not to be a trillionaire. So I wonder, actually, the spotlight's gone off. They've just carried on cranking the handle. They're probably still enticing for very much people on company car schemes here in the UK. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but possibly similar. So I wonder, actually, whether just that being out of the spotlight has actually solved it in a way, if you know what I mean.
I think a little bit. I mean, what surprises me about this is that, the comment at the bottom of this Ars Technica article is that Tesla doesn't break out sales by geographic region. Registration data shows that much of the sales surge came from Europe. And I think has been a lack of good quality EV alternatives from one sense. You kind of know what you're getting with a Tesla. It's good enough. It's reliable enough that, they're a known quantity at this point. Whereas as we talked about last week, Volkswagen dropped the ball with the ID series. I think the early BMWs weren't great. I think there's lots of challenging stuff. And you have lots of Chinese cars coming in now, but they're still a slightly unknown quantity, particularly in the Build Your Dreams, Skywell, Qi, Xpeng, all those brands aren't known, whereas Tesla's kind of recognized. So I think you've got, like you say, Elon out of the news. You want something with a big battery that's going to last you a couple of years. They're a relatively safe alternative. There's lots of used Teslas kicking about that don't seem to have a problem.
Yeah, agreed. So I like I say, I think time's a bit of a healer. And so you're still seeing a lot of them on the road. And obviously they're up 25%. That's an impressive number.
And if Elon keeps his mouth shut, maybe it'll keep going.
Yeah, but maybe that's what he's learned.
Seems unlikely, doesn't it?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Media.
Go on then, let's do the media.
So, not a lot to say. I just want to reiterate how much I'm enjoying Star City. Have you started it yet?
No, I'm so far behind on everything. I think I've been too busy playing with my music app that I've listened to more music than I've ever listened to. But I've abandoned the visual form of films and TV shows at the minute. But I am flying tomorrow, so I've got an hour on a plane tomorrow, so maybe I could fit something in.
Yeah, I think have a go. I think you'd really like it. Obviously, the critics are more with me on this on Rotten Tomatoes. 97% the critics, 72% the audience. I think that's a bit unfair to it. It's probably just lots of people not liking all the British accents in it as much as anything else. Like I've said before, it's got that sort of vibe of Chernobyl in it. I'm loving it, though. I think it's extremely well done. It's definitely a very different show to For All Mankind, and I think it's better for that. And going back to this period with sort of the paranoia spy feel to it is really, really good. I'm enjoying it. It's certainly a lot less flashy space sequences anyway, but it's very well done. Is
it all available to watch now, or is it still being dropped weekly?
I think we've got one episode to go, possibly two, and then the whole thing is there.
Oh, so it's probably a good time for me to come into it then. So if I do want to binge it, I could.
I think now is the time. You'd struggle to get through it all at one go. Widow's Bay finished, and I reported on that, but Star City's still ongoing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, check it out. It's worth a go. And then I actually managed to watch a film, and for some reason I was pining after Local Hero, which annoyingly Rotten Tomatoes isn't opening this up, so I'm just going to search for it here.
Is it a Clint Eastwood film?
No.
Is it a modern film?
No. Have you never heard of Local Hero?
I haven't. I thought it was a Clint Eastwood film, but
no,
it's not the film I was thinking of.
No. So Local Hero is quite a gentle, fairly traditional, slow-moving British comedy in one sense. It's 1 hour and 50 minutes long. It was released in 1983. It stars, and I won't be able to say the American actress name, Peter Riegert. Last seen by us in Succession. He played one of the lawyers in the Succession boardroom in the last season of that, so he's still around.
Oh, I may have to have a look.
It also stars Burt Lancaster, that titan of Hollywood cinema back in the day. And probably in his biggest role I've seen him in a film, Dennis Lawson, who, if you don't know, is Ewan McGregor's uncle and played Wedge Antilles in the Star Wars films.
Yeah, and he's done quite a lot of roles, hasn't he, Dennis Lawson? So
he's done a lot of TV. He's done a lot of TV. And then a couple of good Scottish comedians as well, like Fulton Mackay and others. Anyway, as you'll see from the reviews, 100% from critics, 87% from the audience. And also stars, I think, Peter Capaldi in one of his very first roles. A very, very young Peter Capaldi. He can't have been more than 24, 25 when he was making this.
Yeah, he must have been incredibly young.
Yeah. It's exactly as I remember it. It's warm, it's gentle, it's got that, potentially lots of money coming to a little Scottish community thing going on. That, without giving anything away, an oil company want to buy an entire village so they can build an oil terminal there. That's what they want to do. And the villagers are far more canny than the arriving American gives them credit for what they want to do with the village. It's just a beautiful film with a very nice soundtrack. Shows some great Scottish scenery. A very gentle, slow comedy, the style of which you don't really get anymore. And I'm with the critics on this. I think it's a classic.
Peter Capaldi, by the way, was 25. So your guessing was pretty good. And did you know that Peter Capaldi's second cousin is Lewis Capaldi? I did not know that. I
did know that.
So there you go. It looks quite an interesting film. So I've never heard of it, never seen it, but amazing. It's got 100%. I still wish you could see like an age range of when the reviews were, because obviously your mind might change or it might not age that well. So it'd be interesting to see when these reviews were done. But obviously they were done well after the event. So because obviously Rotten Tomatoes was not around in 1983. So I'd be up for watching this.
I mean, you've got People of the Times UK 2023, Scottish American Charmer, the Sublime soundtrack. Movies get re-released, classics hang around. By the way, there's an idea there for an app, Chris. Maybe that's what you should ask Claude to do next.
What? Hang around movies?
No. Go out and discover movie reviews from 1983, 1984, 1985. You could do something like that. If anybody makes any money off that, I want the credit for it, by the way. But yeah, check it out. I think if you've got a couple of hours, and I know you like a film, stick on in the background, and the soundtrack is lovely. If you like a bit of Dire Straits back in the day, Mark Knopfler did the soundtrack for this film.
That's why I've heard of Local Hero. Thank you very much, Mark Knopfler, who's the lead singer of Dire Straits. And it is, in the UK anyway, on Amazon Prime, which a lot of people probably have.
Not me, but yes, that's where it is. So there you go, Local Hero.
And it was a BAFTA Film Award winner.
It's a good film. It's a great film. So critically acclaimed, awards showered on it, great soundtrack, young Peter Capaldi, what's not to like?
Yeah, fair enough. All right, that's possibly more doable than a whole TV series for me.
You can expend 2 hours on that on a train, maybe.
Yep, I'll see what I can do.
Games,
what you got?
I got bad news, Chris.
Oh no.
Sony not only want to take away content they've already sold you, they now want to take away your spinning discs as well.
I'm a bit mixed on this. I'm not that surprised because I buy mine digitally. But a friend of mine did buy one with a disc drive so that he can buy games cheaply, because they are like 60 quid when they come out, or 80 quid. And actually you can go and buy the disc generally second hand for like 10 or 15 quid. So I'm not surprised they're doing it, but it's been rumoured for a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah. On one level, I entirely get it. It's expensive to manufacture. Everybody's got fast internet pretty much. It's annoying to have to swap the discs in and out when you want to play a game. They're noisy when they spin, yada, yada, yada. However...
And half the time, you're downloading gigabytes of extra data and patches. And is it Grand Theft Auto where you just literally get a code in the box? I think there's one game where you just get a code in the box and it's just going to download it.
It's not a million miles away from what Nintendo have done with their little console cartridges things for the Switch too. However, here's my problem with this. Those you can at least stick in another Switch if you decide to sell them on, and somebody else can continue to use them. They're not locked to one user, unlike your average download. For the preservation of games, I think this is a problem. The games delivered via the Sony store are so heavily DRM'd that should they be abandoned 10, 15 years from now, then nobody's going to be able to keep these games up and running, I wouldn't have thought. Whereas if you've got the disc, at least you can do something about it. And you think, the history we have of PC, Amiga, Atari ST, Commodore 64, Spectrum, all the early consoles and all the rest of it, all those things have been preserved. And I think as part of gaming history, it's really important to have the ability to have, to have them. It's, like I say, and also you've got a whole market you're about to put out of business, like Kex and those resellers of games and all the rest of it that depend on these kinds of things. And not everybody's got internet. And once upon a time, you'd buy a disc, you stick it, you could put your PlayStation in your bag when you'd go off with your parents somewhere, your Xbox, and play it when you got there. You can't do that anymore.
No, agreed. And obviously back then games were really robust and you didn't have this, let's launch it and we'll patch it and post. Whereas that seems to be the world we now live in. So yeah, bit of a sad one. Did you know they're also stopping the PS3 store and the PS Vita store as well in a year's time, which I get not many people are using it. But again, now you can't go back and have a bit of nostalgia, which I like to do, as you know, and play some old games. So that's a bit sad.
Yeah, I mean, the PS3 does seem quite old now in my head. It feels like a long time ago since that big fat console sat under my TV.
With the cool Spider-Man font.
Yeah, and I've still got one up in a loft somewhere. So I've kept all my PlayStations. Back to the PS1.
I have not.
No, you've got no soul when it comes to old tech, Chris. I know that. You sell it instantly.
I usually need the money to fund the next one. That's the problem I've always had.
I always keep them too long, and they're not worth anything by the time I come to sell them.
Yeah, so mine is always to take the edge off the next acquisition.
Anyway, like I say, I'm a bit mixed about this. I completely understand Sony's logic in doing this. However, it's a bit sad that it's going away. And it just further reinforces the fact we don't own anything. I mean, I'm very aware that, my Steam library, which is in the thousands, goes away when I do. You know what I mean?
It's mad, isn't it? And look, one of us has just written an MP3 app and re-ripped and got a hold of all his MP3s again, so that he does actually own something, because I've went through a long time of renting my music and I want to go the other way now.
And I understand it, and I thought you'd be proud of me, Chris. I actually re-added a network share to one of my servers, and my Sonos app now directly connects to my local media library again.
Yes, welcome to my world. Wait till I send you my app to play with.
Well, I'll have that too, but I had Metallica pounding through the house the other day. I was reliving my early 90s.
Oh, fair play to you, fair play.
Thank you very much. Should we do a main show?
Go on then, let's do it. It's all about you this week.
It's going to be slightly unstructured, this. I thought we'd go through my process of what I put on my new Mac, and you could ask me questions at the end about it, about why I made those decisions or why I installed a particular app or something like that, and just see if you could follow my logic.
Okay.
So, this was a new device that I bought corporately. So it's not my Mac, it's the university's Mac. I have a brand new M5 MacBook Pro, 24 gigs of RAM. It's the middle spec one. Is it the Ultra's the top chip, right?
Max,
so it's a Pro. It's an M5 MacBook Pro,
okay.
Middle tier, 14 gigs, midnight grey. It looks exactly the same as every MacBook Pro I've had from the M1 onwards, basically.
I think they say 24 gigs. I think you said 14.
Did I say it? 24.
You said 24 the first time. So okay,
with a terabyte SSD.
I mean, it sounds very nice. It's a good machine. Have you noticed any difference?
It's real fast. It's real fast.
Like really fast.
It's like real fast. Safari loads so fast now, Chris.
But that's all the content's remote. Is it Snappier? Snappier was the same, wasn't it? Safari Snappier. That was always
Safari
the same.
Snappier. I have installed one thing that lets me test that a little bit. So let's go through. So there I've got. It is, and I think I mentioned this on the show before, it's the first device I've ever had which has had some means of locking it down with Apple out the box. So typically when we get a device corporately, we have to install whatever the Microsoft product is, I forget, onto it.
Company portal.
That connects it to the internal university stuff to make sure that it's kept up to date, and if it's stolen, somebody's got a hold of it, and blah, blah, blah. However, this time, out of the box, it went, this device is owned by my employer, get on from there. So I presume they've registered a MAC address or something like that with Apple when they came, that it came from there, so they always know whose it is. Done.
Yep, so I have lived in that world where we used to buy iPads and iPhones, and basically you register them as you buy them kind of thing. You get like a CSV, and therefore then when the employee gets the device, it will say, managed by whoever's managing it. But what it does mean is even if you sign in with your personal iCloud account and all of that, it doesn't matter if you were to leave, because the company own it, they can still wipe it. Whereas if you sign in with your personal account on a Mac or an iPhone or iPad, and it's not a corporate device, and you leave and you haven't unregistered it, that machine is then sandboxed and you can't do anything with it.
It becomes digital waste at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is the one really good thing about it.
So it's fine. I am, however, able to configure it however I want to. There are no corporate policies on it. Other than basically, as all employers are these days, they're worried about software being kept up to date and patched, and they don't want things drifting from there, and they want to keep an eye on where it is. They're not there checking every keystroke, as far as I know. What they are doing is keep an eye on that. And frankly, having worked in IT, most people don't have time to care. Unless something goes wrong, they just let employees get on with it, and that's fine. So, what did I do? Well, I immediately installed my iCloud stuff. I had to skip it all because we in the university sector have a thing called Edge Roam. It's the most amazing wireless network in the world. Basically, I can walk into any university and most hospitals in the UK and have Wi-Fi. It's just incredible.
Oh, okay, that's quite cool.
Yeah, so you register the MAC address of that particular device, and it's known across the whole university network. It's worked for me in airports around the world. It's worked for me in Singapore. It's worked for me. I've seen it pick up behind megabuses when I've been passenger in a car.
Okay.
Megabus, because so many students travel on Megabus, that they obviously have Edge your own SSIDs added to that as well. It just works. You roll up. I went to Edinburgh. I stayed in Edinburgh University 2 weeks ago for a conference. I had Wi-Fi. I didn't need to do anything on all my devices. It's terrific. I love Edge your own.
Yeah, okay, that's quite. I hadn't heard of this. That sounds quite cool.
But the downside is, if you're setting up a new device, you need to do a whole register the MAC address, log in with your your credentials and all the rest of it, and off you go. So, but that's really cool. So let me skip and just point to Apple, allowing you to skip things. I have got no Wi-Fi. I have got this. Microsoft don't let you do that anymore. You can't set up a device without it being directly connected to the internet. I'd have had to tether my phone or something while Windows did its 400 restarts.
Yeah, I think it's good Apple do it, but it's not that obvious sometimes how to do it. You just have to push a few buttons, but I agreed it is good.
It is good. So the first thing I installed was Proton Pass, which I went to a website in Safari and I downloaded it, because unless I can put my passwords and usernames in, I can't do anything. So that felt like job one.
You hit that wall pretty quickly, don't you? Like, I can't log into anything. So no, fair enough.
There's two-factor authenticators, there's passkeys, there's all manner of things. I may as well just get that particular pain out of the way. So I'm on the Wi-Fi. I install Proton Pass and Proton Pass for Safari, so that two things are linked in. I haven't put it in here, but I immediately then had to go into Safari and turn off all the stupid autofill stuff that populates Safari's drop-downs over the top of the password manager you'd rather use, because they drive me mental anyway. So that's the thing I had to do. And then the very next thing I did was I installed Homebrew. And I realized I'm not showing anything very interesting on the screen here. So I've put the link separately to sort of the sequence I did this in. So let me actually just bring up Homebrew so we can see that as I'm talking about it. So I've talked about Homebrew before. I feel like it's the thing that everybody should have, but I know people are scared of the terminal and they don't. Basically, to install Homebrew on a Mac, go on, Chris, you're going to say something.
I was going to say hello.
Hello.
I'm scared of the terminal.
You fire up the terminal, you copy this command here that's on the install Homebrew thing, you paste it in, you do as you're told as it's doing it, and then if you want to install anything else pretty much, you type brew install and the name of the app that you want to get. And the nice thing about this is, and one of the reasons I did it this way, is it's scriptable. So you can actually get this script of all the things I installed with Homebrew, and the next time I get a Mac, I can just install Proton Pass, set up my Wi-Fi, copy the script to my Mac and hit go, and all of these apps will be installed one after the other. I won't need to go to the Apple App Store and click on this and click on that. And I have installed a few things from there. But almost everything else I'm going to talk about from this point forward, I installed with Homebrew.
That was meant to be the joy of the App Store, but I can understand that actually let's script it so that, like, I want to wipe my Mac at some point, but I've got to reset it all up. So I can see the benefit of doing this.
It makes total sense. And the other nice thing you can do with Homebrew is it will update your apps as well. So once you've done it all, you can do brew update, brew upgrade, and it will just install all your apps in one go as well, rather than have to click around and, wait for that stupid red 1 to appear in the App Store. So I'm a big fan of Homebrew. I think it gives you lots of functionality. And it also does things like, again, not that you care, but if you're a Python developer, you can actually get a modern version of Python installed and running and properly sandboxed in your Mac, rather than the version of Python that comes with macOS these days.
Yeah, okay. That's quite cool.
So stuff like that's really helpful too. So anyway, I've got Homebrew. I've got my password manager. I'm pretty much good to go. So then I'll rattle through these, and maybe you want to stop me. So I install Viscosity, which is a VPN app that I use for our corporate WireGuard account. So that involves dragging some certificates in. It gives me a little icon up in the taskbar. I can click Viscosity, connect, and my VPN's just up and running to my corporate connection, so I can connect to all my remote stuff. So that's just, it was an app I bought myself, but it's, even though it's a paid for app or a licensed app, you can still download it with Homebrew because they make these things available in one place. So it saves you having to go, what was this? What was the developer? Because it's some weird website that's not immediately obvious, and you can go from there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's Viscosity, which is up to 1.12. I think he's an Australian developer, but it's quite nice. It's just a well-done app, and you probably could do it with the built-in VPN stuff on the Mac. I just like the control from this point of view.
Yeah, we've all got the thing we like.
We've all got the thing we like. I've already said I disabled Safari's passwords and autofill because that's just annoying, gets in the way. The fact the dock was in the bottom of the screen immediately started to bother me. We've got widescreens these days. The dock does not belong on the bottom of your screen. It belongs on the left-hand side where it's meant to be. It's the only place you put the dock, and anywhere else you put it anywhere else is wrong.
It feels like I'm in the wrong books already.
It's a problem if it's on the bottom. If you're a Pro Mac user, the dock does not belong on the bottom. It belongs on the left-hand side of your screen.
Oh, I think there's a lot of people that might argue with you.
That's fine. Also, it's too big. Get the size down as small as you can possibly get it as well.
Yeah, I do like it reasonable because I like to see the beautiful icons, but they're less beautiful these days.
They're less beautiful. They're in Squircle jail these days, Chris. Once upon a time, there were beautiful icons, but now, no.
Yeah, I would agree with you
there. There's also too many pointless programs installed in it, and I don't know who they're designing the default dock for these days, but you've got notes, you've got music, you've got reminders, you've got God knows what. I've removed them all now, so I don't even remember, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that I never want to use, ever.
I would completely concur with you there.
So they should keep it fairly bare. I think most people... Maybe they need a profile. When you buy a MacBook Neo, put them all there. For every other Mac owner, do not put them there. Just start off with Safari and maybe the Finder. That's all you need.
Yeah, it's hard though, isn't it? I guess, but yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Oh, maybe for our next show, we should talk about what we've got in our docks right now. On our Macs and maybe on your iPad as well. But I'll let you make a note about that because that could be quite an entertaining thing. All right. So I got rid of the pointless programs from the dock. I resolved this time to not install a Microsoft Office apps, so I did a brew install LibreOffice, which is an open source Office platform that I think I've talked about before.
Yep,
just definitely talked about. Yeah, just a lot. So it gives you a Word, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint variant effectively, which can open and write and all the rest of it. It's very good. It looks a bit busy compared to what you're used to with Microsoft stuff, but you can set up a tabbed interface instead. It's completely open source software, and you can get an Apple Silicon or an Intel variant of it, and you can theme it to make it look like a Mac app and all the rest of it as well. And it even opens Keynote files.
So is this what you're going to use for corporate work?
I have been using it for work, including commenting on things, sending it back to people. And nobody yet has said to me, why does it look so weird, Rod? You broke my document. It just works.
That would be my big nervousness.
Yeah. And the other thing you can do for people who aren't used to working on your computer is you can set it to default save to docx or .xlxx rather than ODT or whatever.
Yeah, so it's just like being in Microsoft land.
Yep. So that was LibreOffice. Next I installed Zoom, which is a video conferencing client that I think the world is familiar with at this point. All this is with Homebrew, by the way. I'll make a change. Then Google Chrome, just because it's always nice to have an alternative browser. I don't use it, but occasionally you'll get the odd website that's very resistant to Safari, so it's just there in case I need it.
For the listeners, Chris pulled a face at the mention of Chrome.
And Rod felt he needed to justify. Here's an example of a Chrome use case. I logged into LinkedIn with it because I hate LinkedIn and I want to bottle it over somewhere I never use any other browser on.
Okay, understood.
Understood. I then installed Slack because that's our corporate chat thing as much as anything else. Big fan of Slack. Less so since Salesforce are getting their claws further and further into it. Actually, I'm going to back up a minute and just talk about Zoom for a second. Zoom used to be a really simple, well-executed video conferencing client. They insist on adding all manner of document features, AI features, and all manner of other things to it. It's still better than Teams, but it's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, they're trying to do more and add value and all of that malarkey, and so I would concur.
And it's really not good. Next, I installed, and I didn't want to have to do it, but unfortunately we talked to people in the NHS. I had to install Microsoft Teams, which I think is one of the worst apps you can get on a Mac.
It's not great. Do you not use it through the web browser?
Well, I suppose I could use it through the web browser, but you know what it's like when you're sharing screen and you want to present, and occasionally you just want a little more flexibility that it gives you.
Yeah, I get it.
So I didn't enjoy it. I felt I'd sacrificed at least 2% of my soul reinstalling it because I thought I might be able to do without it. But ultimately, I'm just going to end up doing it anyway. But again, I'd like to point out, it was just a command in Homebrew. I didn't need to go off to... I actually asked Gemini to go and pull all these links for me for all the apps from this. It's done a lovely job of it. I didn't need to go and do any of this. I didn't need to click on a DMG. I didn't need to drag anything anywhere. I didn't need to put in my passwords or any of that stuff. I just installed it in a nice, safe, secure environment via Homebrew.
What is in your thing? It says cask in the show notes. What does cask mean?
So cask just points to effectively the official Microsoft download thing, where they put it in a different area. It's not part of the mainstream release. You've got to sort of nominate into the cask for Microsoft Teams.
Right. Okay. Understood.
I then had to go into settings and enable screen and audio recording for Zoom, Teams, and Slack, because you're going to share screen or audio or something from them. And it's really annoying the first time you have a meeting with a new computer and you go share your screen or your PowerPoint presentation, and it goes, by the way, you've got to quit everything and launch again. I don't think you use a Mac corporately for these kinds of things. You may not have ever seen it.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, if you're on a Mac and you go to share your screen, Zoom, Teams, and Slack get very upset.
Yeah, I can imagine. It was going to want a setting enabling.
At this point, I was still into Tailscale, so I installed the Tailscale installer. I went to them directly to get that rather than doing it with Homebrew because I wanted the bleeding edge client, and I thought I'd download it directly from them, so that was that. At that point, I got prompted for a device management screen that I'd never seen before. This was the corporate thing kicking in. I installed SyncThing. I think I've had SyncThing as an app of the week. Let me see if I can find a link to SyncThing so we can talk about it. I have had it as an app of the week, haven't I?
Yes, I think you have.
So basically, this is a home-based iCloud, effectively. You can nominate a server. You can put some files in there to whatever space you've got on the server, and then on your clients, you can say, all just connect to that server. So if you've got a Tailscale or a NetBird or some sort of network set up, you can just get your clients to sync back and forth. And if you're of a mind to, you can actually set it as a mesh as well. So if you think your server is going to go down, you can point to your clients at each other, and it will keep those directories perfectly in sync. It's really fast. It's really up to date. I'm a big fan of SyncThing. If you have any interest in getting away from corporate iCloud, Google Drive, Proton Drive, any of that kind of stuff, SyncThing's a great place to look.
Yeah, okay. I'm a little interested. As you can see, I'm heading that way.
Yeah, I might talk you through that again. I then configured some Expose mouse shortcut settings. So in my case, that is, I have a Logitech MX3S. I'm holding it up to the camera right now. It has lots of buttons. And I used to have to install a piece of software called Linear Mouse, so I could do things like activate Expose when I touch one of the right mouse buttons here. Turns out it's now in macOS. Who knew? So I actually went into Expose and I could pick the right button. It doesn't say which button it is. It just says mouse button 5, mouse button 6, mouse button 7. But with a bit of experimentation, I managed to get it to do the thing I wanted it to do. So that's nice. It's actually built into the operating system now.
Yeah, interesting they've added that, but I guess way more mice have that kind of thing now, and nobody wants to put that horrible driver on there. So, okay, fair enough.
I then went and downloaded a thing called Scribus because we need to produce academic posters. I won't go into it in a massive amount of detail. But, it's not quite advertising, but as an academic, you're right. An abstract, you get it peer reviewed. You can go to a conference and you got to do a fairly pretty poster, we call it, which you stand next to and present some of your work that's not quite ready for publication. It's an open source desktop publishing tool.
Okay, that's quite cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It does text flowing fonts, all the layering that you'd expect from something like, what was the name of the Adobe thing? Publisher. It's like an Adobe Publisher, but entirely open source, and it's quite handy for that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Zotero, which I'm not going to open up, but it is a referencing app. So again, if you're writing a paper and you can see this as a corporate machine, and you want to pull your references, so you can say, this researcher in 1961 said this. It will also fill this into LibreOffice or Word or whatever you're using. It's incredibly useful thing, Zotero. I'm a big fan. And it's also open source. Then, would you believe it? In this day and age, I had to install a Java backend.
Ooh, nasty.
Yeah, so I'm not installing Oracle's nonsense because it's full of garbage and cruft. So there's an open source implementation of Java called OpenGDK. So I did a brew install OpenGDK. I had to do a little bit of configuration within that, which I've kept in our show notes list here for exactly what I wanted to do. And in this case, the Java was for a bridge between LibreOffice and the Zotero thing I just installed, so my referencing would go in properly. But that's it. It's installed. One command. Done.
Yeah, make it sound easy. Okay, fair enough.
It was relatively easy. I then installed, and it's also been an app of the week, and I'm not going to do an app of the week this week because you can see I'm mentioning many of them. I installed Zed, which we've talked about before, is a very, very fast, I think it's written in Rust text editor, which I've become a big fan of.
Yeah, it looks cool. I wish I did the text, but I always think it looks cool.
Yeah, you don't know enough stuff in terminal. So having that, I then installed Olama, and Olama lets you run local LLMs.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to run Gemma or one of these open source models on your machine rather than paying Claude for tokens, you need Olama or LM Studio or one of these things. I quite like Olama. I've since discovered an even better Mac one that only runs Mac-specific models called OMLX. And through that, you can have your own chat client up and running. And if you don't trust files being sent to Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever, running them on your own machine, the models aren't as fast because it's dependent on the hardware you're running on, but you need an Olama or one of those other back-end things to host the model to run it. And they're quite useful from that point of view.
Okay, that's quite cool. And I do get I think I'm becoming more aware the more I use an LLM, how much data do I want to send it?
Exactly. It's quite a lot. Particularly we talked about last week about you potentially putting in some API key for something or other and that you pasted it in there. So now Claude's got that, right?
Yeah, and you told me off.
I told you off and I'll tell you off again. Don't do that. I installed something that I've told you long ago that you didn't actually need, but because I was messing around with Olama, I actually wanted to see how hard I was hitting my disk, so I installed a thing called Stats. This is like an open source version of menu meters from back in the day, if you remember, they get little meters on your taskbar.
iStat menus, still love that app.
Still love that app. Because I'm too mean to pay for it because I'm not going to use it that much, downloaded Stats. It does exactly the same thing. I'm a big fan on my work computer. I don't have it on my home computer. I have a bunch of stats running in the thing, so I can see how hard my computer is being smashed by my local LLM.
I may be running iStat menus now. I can see I've got 67% of my disk full. I've my CPU 61 degrees, 22% CPU, 30% of my memories in use.
I then went on and installed from the App Store Microsoft OneDrive because all the corporate stuff's on there, and I got bored of copying them in and out of the web browser all the time, so that was just easier. It's the corporate Mac. I don't mind having it on there, other than filling my Mac up with Microsoft nonsense, but there we go. Time has passed since I've added a few of these other ones, but just to finish off, I installed NetBird and took off Tailscale because, as I talked about a couple of weeks, I've moved away from Tailscale to NetBird. I'm a big fan of NetBird. It works quite well. I got fed up of running Outlook in the browser as well, so mostly because the notifications weren't working properly, so I installed Outlook from the App Store directly. None of the other Microsoft apps, but there we go. Notion, because we use that for internal note-taking. The whole team uses that, so I was struggling with that a bit. That is usable within a web browser. It's basically an Electron app that is a wrapper around the web browser anyway, but it's just a little bit more convenient. I was developing a little app at that point, so I wanted SF symbols from Apple, and that I thought was really interesting because I did a brew install SF symbols and I didn't need to go Apple to get it, which I thought was pretty cool.
That's quite cool because for some stupid reason, FF symbols comes on a DMG, it updates via system settings. It's just an odd app. I don't get why it's not just in the App Store. If Xcode's in the App Store, why is everything else not there? It's a bit odd how you do some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. So that's on there too, and I to be honest, I've barely used it. I then installed Shotter, which is a screenshot app that I have talked about a couple of times before. It's just much better than the sort of default grab app that's built into your Mac for capturing selections of the screen. It lets you annotate things very quickly on there. Shift Command 5 for me is what I've got it set up for. You can then draw some arrows, put some text on. You can measure how far things are apart. If you're trying to do a little tutorial for someone, it will do numbering. So click here, here, and here, and it will go 1, 2, 3, and then you can write text. In 1, do this. In 2, do that. It's just a really neat little app. I'm a big fan of it.
Every time I use the screenshot app, I don't understand it. It's confusing. You have to click on the marker icon, like the thing that looks like an Apple Pencil to get the edit bar. It's just not a very nicely done app. I don't know why. It's just odd.
No, it's terrible. And the other nice thing about it is they've actually built in OCR to the later versions as well. So if there's any text in the area you've screenshot, it automatically copies it to your clipboard as well, which I think is a really cool feature.
Yeah, that is cool.
And speaking of clipboards, I was determined to be default. And I tried to use Spotlight and Space Command 4 to bring up the Apple default clipboard thing. It's absolute garbage. Whoever wrote that as having it several key shortcuts away rather than just having a one key combo to bring up your clipboard history was very, very wrong. And stop doing it, Apple. It's bad.
Well, there's feedback.
So, it's not even a hot take. It's just bad. So I reinstalled Muggy, which is the clipboard manager everybody should run if they've got a Mac. It just works. Shift Command V brings up the keyboard menu. I wouldn't be able to do the show notes for this show without a clipboard manager for the way that we do it. I've got something similar in Linux as well. It's just the way it works. And frankly, if you've got a Mac and you haven't got Muggy, I think you're crazy.
It's quite interesting at the top of Muggy's website there. I don't know if you've seen it, but beware of fake website impersonating it.
Yep.
That's quite a thing to impersonate a clipboard manager, isn't it?
But it makes sense because if you're copying your passwords and all that kind of stuff into it.
I'm there, I got it.
So it's a great app and get it, but Apple's one is garbage. And last but not least, I reinstalled Kika, which is a zip unzip manager, which I've talked about before as well, because Apple's Archiver app is terrible and leaves resource forks and all those horrible Mac remnants in your file system lying around. Not easy. Password Protect only really supports zip. Kika supports just about everything: 7-zip, unzip, tar files, all weird stuff, and supports password protecting them, and supports encryption within them too. I'm a huge fan of it. You can get it on the App Store, or I did a brew install in this case as well. But and that got me to the point where I had a completely usable Mac.
Can we just stop on Kika a minute? What a cool icon.
It's nice, isn't it?
Really cool. I love the icon.
Yeah. It's a really nice bit of software. It's very small. It does what it wants. And it even adds in later versions a right-click menu on the Mac. So if you command-click on something, you get Archive and Kika, which not a lot of Mac apps actually integrate into your right-click menu.
No, that's true. Okay, that's quite cool.
So there you go. Any questions about all of that? Did anything you think, why would you do that? Or was that just a lot of information at once?
I don't know where to even start. So a lot of what you do with your Mac and where you work is very different to the world I'm used to. I'm very much Microsoft corporate. And then my Macs are largely for a bit of coding, a bit of podcasting, which obviously you're not using that for because this is your corporate Mac, not your podcasting Mac. So our install list is so different. And obviously mine would be very manual. And I like the idea that yours is all scriptable. So I could see me coming around to this at some point, because even if you only rebuild your Mac once every couple of years, this can get you up a long way there without too much effort.
Yeah, and the whole dance of, installing software on a Mac has always been a bit weird, particularly if you came from Windows. Download a DMG or a zip, unzip it, you end up with a DMG. Double-click the DMG, which is a disk-mountable image, is what I think it basically stands for. You get whatever the program is within the DMG, and some of them may have an installer, or some of them maybe you just drag this file into the applications folder of your Mac. They double-click that, and then you get asked for a bunch of permissions often at the point. It'll say something like, this program was downloaded from the internet. Do you trust it? Yes. And these days you then get bombarded with 500 warnings from the top right-hand corner of your Mac as it complains about being from the internet, wants to access the screen, wants to do this, wants to do that. Will run in the background is one I'm seeing more and more, which also is, by the way, really annoying in the new version of Golden Gate. Is if you run something like Steam, you can't make it go away. It just sits there in the dock, running in the background. You can't kill it off. It's very annoying.
Agreed.
Yeah. I then went on to install a bunch of my particular corporate stuff, like Jupyter Desktop and RStudio and things like that. But this ability to just go brew install, and it's just there for you in your applications folder by the time it's finished executing and will update, is a massive time saver when you're setting up a new Mac, or you just want to try out a new piece of software. Because to get rid of it, it's brew remove and the name of the thing, and it's gone, and it removes all the cruft from your disk as well. So I think it's a great way of working.
Now that would sell me the remove functionality. So maybe this is a tool I actually should start looking into.
I think you should check it out. Like if you wanted to install any of these things that I've talked about, like Mackie on your Mac, the proper one, not the pirate one. This is a great way to start to demonstrate the utility of Homebrew and what it can do for you.
Yeah, no, you're piquing my interest.
Well, I'm glad. Maybe I will get you into the terminal yet, Chris.
One day. Well, you've done a lot with it. You got me getting on a NAS. You got me sorting out my files, making sure I own them. So I've come a long way in 6 months.
You're getting there, mate. You are definitely getting there. And with that, I'm done. Unless you've any other questions about that.
No, I think sorry, my dog has just joined me at the window. I think it's super interesting, like I say, the way we would both A, set up our Macs, and B, just the differences we all have. Obviously, we have very different jobs, but no, I found that really interesting. It was a good main show.
Good. I hope that was interesting. I've done many apps of the week, even though some of them are repeats, but thing of the week.
Thing of the week for me is just a YouTube video, which is odd because I don't watch a lot of YouTube, and I've actually linked to a 1-year-old YouTube video which I hadn't seen before, but it's Chris Harris, the car guy off of Top Gear here in the UK from years ago, and a guy called Francois, I don't know how to say his last name,
Bourgeois,
and he's a real big train fanatic. He gets very excited when he sees trains, and he's basically trying to race a train, and he gets Chris Harris to help him out driving the car, and it's just quite a cool crossover video of two well-known YouTubers, I think. It was quite funny, and they've since become actually quite good friends. But I just thought it was an interesting video. It's about 20 minutes long, but would recommend trains and cars. What more is there to like?
Looks like a steam train.
Oh yeah, he's big on steam trains. I don't know if he does diesels. I don't know a huge amount about him, but it was a good little video to watch. I would recommend.
Thanks for that. I think we can call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if anyone wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5maniac@mastodon.scot. I'm at _CJP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to waitfromsleep.com and click on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email at waitfromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.